Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I want to do a video talking about the new features I've added to the bank ATM system I've showed off in the past. So first I'm going to start with a little showcase of new features and how they work, and then I'll do a in-depth talk about how to set it up and configure it to your needs. So I'm on a brand new server system, so there's no accounts created. In the past, you'd have to use the main bank server to create accounts, which are a bit clunky. Now you can do that at any ATM that has the setting enabled. You can click this nice big button here with colors, which is part of the new UI I've made. So we click sign up, put in our card. Now I just found out you can shift right click to put it in, super easy. Never knew you could do that. So we'll go put in our PIN for our new account, and it will take us to this main screen with the nice new buttons, which also now displays your ID and your balance. So we're going to make a deposit of, let's go with 19. That's now in our account. See the update there. And more importantly, I never had to put in my PIN. In the past, you had to put in your PIN for every transaction you did. Now you put in your PIN once at the start and it's saved. And now the balance can also be reported up here. I can also make a transfer, which I can use this to show off the fees. I've got it set to 5%. So if I go to withdraw $10, rounded, that's 1 diamond, because this is actually diamonds we're withdrawing. And so we're going to get 9. So it will withdraw $10, but we only get 9 here because that was the fee. Now the one other option that's here and actually working now instead of being broken and disabled is transfer, but I only have one account set up, so that's not going to work. So now I'm going to show off one other very cool feature I've added, which is receipts. So when you click that button, you'll get a nice printed receipt here with important information like ID, location, so the ATM, starting balance, starting time and date, each transaction. This date here is probably going to disappear and be replaced with this because you're not going to make transactions over multiple days. And then a final balance and a closing time when you click the receipt button. So it's pretty cool. I'm going to come over here and make another account. And now I can show off another really cool feature, which is coined to currency exchange rates. So in the past, it's always been 1 diamond equals 1 coin. And if you wanted to add another coin, it would have to be the same value as a diamond, so it didn't work very well. But now, if I want to add a gold ATM, I can say that gold is worth $0.5. So you can see here I have 0 in both. But if I go to deposit, let's say 15 gold, that's $7.5. And now I have $7.5, but it also displays how many coins that is. I could make a withdrawal of 10 coins, which, as we can see with fees, would actually be 9 coins. So that's 10 coins was worth $5. And there I get my 9 coins after fees. So now what we're going to do is make a transfer now that we have 2 accounts. At the moment, you can't use the dot to do decimals because that interferes with the numpad. For now, we're just going to do $2, which rounded is actually only a fee of 0, so that's quite nice. And we're going to do it to account 0. And as you can see, got $0.5 left here. If I come over to here, look at our balance, and first I'm going to check what it was before, which is a good time to talk about the naming of these cards. You can see ID 0, so you can always remember your ID to tell someone if they want to transfer to you. and last time we were using an ATM, our balance was $9. So if we go like that, we can see our balance is now $11, so the transfer worked successfully. I'll do a little transfer over here of $10, and you can see the 10% fee does actually work. I'll do it to random account so it doesn't succeed. And now you can always, if you don't want to get a receipt, just use a regular exit button, but it's really cool to have that receipt, and I like the way it prints. Here you can see multi-page printing, as well as the ability to change the ink color, which is quite cool. Now, so I want to show off one more feature that I'm quite proud of, so I'm going to make a transfer to do so. I'm going to go $10 to account 1, and you can see right here that the reports on what's happening with the transaction is a lot more readable because it stays there for a while and it's written sequentially with some nice colors instead of just being overwritten by the next message. Now, what's really cool with this is almost everything is backwards compatible. The transfers don't work because that wasn't implemented in the server. So you'll want to set the transfer maximum to 0 to disable that. But all the other features like receipt printing should work. But if you want to get all of the new features and more, you want to be using the new bank system that I'll show off now. So the UI here and here is pretty much the same. The only new feature is this option to read the log. So I'll just go from line 1, and you can see right here 3 different transactions with all their information. This information is stored in an actual file, so it won't be lost on restart or program change, and it's in a nice JSON format so you can extract the information if you really want to. Now, the most useful update added to the server is definitely this display you can add right here. Every ATM with every transaction now sends back what it's storing, how much it's storing, and the exchange rate. So that first allows us to calculate how much in total currency worth that is stored in the system, which, knowing what's on the cards, we can then work out a revenue. I'll talk to you guys later in the server setup about how you can, from that, pretty easily calculate the profit. But for now, another very useful feature that allows us to do is give a display of how many of each item is stored in the system. If I had multiple ATMs that had diamonds, they would just get added to this total. It's not just per ATM, so that's quite useful. Before you set up an ATM, you're going to want to set up the server with all the balances. You can transfer over balances from an old bank server, and I'll show you how to do that along the way. So we're going to start with a disk drive and then a computer on the top. I'm actually using the bank server that I used in the example as a way to show how you would transfer over the old balances. Then you want an Ender modem on top. That means no matter what modem is on the ATMs, you get an infinite range from all 3 dimensions. And then if you want to display the information, you can put a screen on the right. I found 4x4 works best for the current text size. Now, you'll want to, if you're transferring over, delete startup, delete bank API, delete control. Saves is not ATMs is not as important because that's part of the new update, so you probably won't have it. Just have everything deleted except saves. Now, if I pull up my pastebin and you navigate to bank server downloader, and we'll just copy this here. I'll also have this linked in the description. And we go paste and run. Now it will install all the files, and the code it uses to make the saves folder, mkdir. If we go into saves, we can see it won't overwrite a folder if it's already there. So if you're on a server and you leave the saves folder there, it won't overwrite it and all your balances will still be available. Now, to set up the server, we're going to start by going to Startup. Now, most of the settings in here are pretty easy. We got the location of the modem, got the path for the log file where transactions are recorded, a simple setting to enable that, a setting to enable the calculation done between stored and stored on cards. And if you want to increase the size of the screen, the text would stay the same, so it'd be pretty weirdly scaled, so you can increase the scale of the text printed on the screen. The last thing is a bit more complicated, and it's called expense account. It's explained in this comment, but I'll explain it itself. Now, if you add coins directly to this chest, the system has no knowledge of that, so it doesn't know about your expenses. So the amount in here minus the amount on cards is simply revenue. But if you choose one of your ATM cards to simply be the bank, and all you do with that card is withdraw or deposit to add and remove coins from the system if they're running out or they're getting full, then that so-called expense account can be factored into the calculations, and therefore when you enable this will print the amount calculated here will say profit instead of revenue, which is pretty cool. You don't have to say which account because you're adding up all the accounts anyway. You simply need to tell it that one of the accounts is used to keep track of expenses. Now, I don't have to change anything here, but if I go edit, control, now the control file still needs to be updated to also save what it's done to the log file. So the name of the ATM that will be recorded in the log file isn't super important at the moment, but the location of the drive is very important, and the location of the log file is still important, as you can use the control file to read the log without it cancelling any code, which can get awkward if someone tries to make a transaction while you do that. So with all the settings done, what we're going to first do is type ID, and we can write down the ID of this computer for later, and then restart the computer to run all the programs properly. I just use Control R. Now don't worry if the screen is displaying nothing. It won't display anything until it receives an update from an ATM. First thing you want to do before building an ATM is find the right location. Most likely you want somewhere popular and where people are going to have a lot of coins on them or want to spend a lot of coins. Next, you want to decide on what coin you're going to use. I'm using emeralds for this because it's different to the other ones, but you probably don't want to use something so abundant and easy to get. That's why I like diamonds, as you have to mine for them, you can't trade for them. Going to start with an item frame up the top so people know what coin this ATM trades. Want the main computer, the disk drive, and the dropper. Now these don't have to be in specific positions because they're all connected usually via wireless modem, so you can put them wherever you want, but I think this system is the most intuitive. You'll want a modem coming out of the back of there, a modem on there, connected via wires. Now if you want to use the disk drive here as the output for the printer, you'll also want a modem on here. Turn those on, and then we're going to have somewhere a wired modem block so that we can connect a couple chests to store the coinage at the back. You can have as little or as many chests as you want. I'll show you how to edit that later. We'll enable that, and then we also want a wireless modem and a dropper for the junk items. It doesn't have to be a dropper, it can be whatever you want, but I like this the best because you can quickly get rid of it. Now, if you want to automatically get rid of the junk items, I recommend a system like this, which simply, when the comparator triggers, it will empty the dropper like so. And you can have this go into the void, or like I have over here, you can have it go into lava. Now, the last thing is if you want to set up a printer, which you don't need to do, simply by disabling printers and settings, it works fine without, but you'll need a wired modem so that you can connect up a chest to store all the inks and paper, and then we'll use this to attach the printer on the side here. Now, the next step is to actually install the code. So we have the ATM downloader over here. Very simple, just like the server. Now we're going to edit settings. Everything's been compiled into one file, so it's a lot easier now. We will remember the ID we got before. We'll say this is ATM3, as we've already got two of them. The modem we connected before, we can just click that to copy, or just go to drive. If you're not using this as the output for a printer, you can just leave that as bottom. But since I am using it as an output, I'm going to copy that, put that in there. We have chest 6 and chest 7, so we'll change this to 6. We'll add a comma, some more double quotes, and we'll paste in chest 7. And you can have as many items in this list as you want. Now this dropper will be dropper 4, and then by basic logic this is dropper 5. Like all the other ones, we have the log file location, enable logging, change this to Minecraft Emerald. This should also work, since it has Minecraft, it should work with all modded items. Coin value, we're going to go 0.25. Actually 0.1, we'll call this a 10-cent coin. Now, this is the percentage of any withdraw or transfer that gets taken away in fees. If you set it to 0, it won't show up in the UI and nothing will happen. Same with the coin value. If you set it to 1, coin stuff won't show up. It will simply always just talk about currency. Transfer max, that's pretty self-explanatory, how much currency you can transfer. And a simple enable and disable for sign up. This, if you want to use the ATM with an old bank server, I would recommend disabling this. You can change the background color. It might look a bit weird, you might need to tweak some other buttons and stuff, but then this timeout is simply if it sends a message to the server and it doesn't hear back within 10 seconds, it would just say it timed out. Now this is for receipts. If you disable it, you don't need a printer and everything will work fine without it. If we go true, and it was printed to, and the chest for storing the ink was chest 8, and the text color will be Minecraft black dye. Now where we output from the printer to the person will be this disk drive here. So that's fine, we just set it to drive, and that should be everything. If you want to change the position or color or text of buttons, you can do it here. Or if it can't find the right color of die, it will just go for one of them in this list. So if you have other dies or you don't like dies in here, you can remove them. White die is invisible on the receipt. That should be all the settings. If we go Control R, everything should be working. We can grab this, shift click to put it in. And we can see that our balance is also tracked over from the old server when we did the update. Then we can see our balance in coins. Now, since we don't have an expense account, we'll just add them normally like this. And we can make a withdrawal of 64 coins, so $6.4. And they show up here, which is perfect. And that's everything you need. Now, receipt won't work. It'll just say out of inks, since we don't have any die. So the ink colors you want for the little logo are cyan, light blue, and blue. You want paper, and in this one we're using black dye for the main ink color. So we'll add all of those. We'll put in our card, put in the pin, make a deposit, and we can print our receipt. Now, there's coins in this system, and we've done some transactions. If we do a transaction on these two ATMs as well, their info will get sent to the bank about what's stored. And then if we come over here, we can see our revenue as well as our tabulated list of everything we have in terms of gold, diamonds, and emeralds. Now, this information right here pretty much is stored permanently on the device here in files. So if this was to restart, it wouldn't have to wait for information to come from every single ATM to be accurate. It would just wait for an update from one ATM. It would calculate the results again using past save information. So that's quite good. If you have ATMs that almost never come online, they won't be lost every restart. So that was the bank and ATM system. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. I'll have links to all the code and stuff in the description, as well as a Google form if you find any issues you want to report. And stay tuned for other videos where I show off the bank system connecting to other cool stuff.